Hi folks, I hope you're comfortable at home, and I just wanted to send this video out to really guide you through the materials that I've posted for today and materials that I've posted for revision during the break leading up to your January exam. I'm not trying to overload you, I just want to make sure that you have a bit of guidance so that you can review, which I think is really important leading up to that January exam. Remember, keep your eyes on the prize. If you work hard now, this may set the bar so that you don't have to sit further exams in June, or at least can help you get a good mark that will help you get past with some follow-up in June. Okay, so first of all, I want to mention that here under home learning, so first of all, I'm in your Google Classroom, obviously, and I've gone to the classwork tab at the bottom. And looking at the second topic there, home learning, okay, you have an assignment to upload last week's homework, which is due today. So if I go into that, the instructions here say what you're meant to do, and you can just take a photo or upload a file. Okay, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. Now, next you have this home learning for Wednesday, the 16th of December, the third post under home learning. Okay. Oops, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Okay, I do have a reminder here that'll come up a little later. You have a Zoom call from 2 to 2:30 today. Okay, and I would like you to join that, to ask questions. I think it's a good opportunity just to check and make sure you understand everything. So it's optional, but I would encourage you to be present for that. Okay, so now I'll go to the home learning tasks for today. Okay, so the first thing you were asked to do is to read through the Unit 4 intro and overview document. Okay, that's this one. Okay, now keep in mind we have 3 periods today, so about 90 minutes. So I've tried to keep to about 90 minutes of work. Okay, I'm going to let you go through this overview of the Unit 4 exam, okay, yourself, this overview PowerPoint. Okay, you can ignore the date at the end of that. Okay, you should already have had a look at this. Okay, but write down any questions, and you can bring those questions to the 2 p.m. Zoom if you wish. Okay, that's number one. Okay, but we're going to actually do a quick overview, a 1-page overview now together, so that you have a picture. Okay, now there's a lot of color, a lot of text here at the same time. Okay, so walk with me from the very top. It says comparing units 1 and 4. So the left half of the page you'll see is Unit 1, okay, and the right side of the page is Unit 4. Okay, so under Unit 1 you have Task 1, which is writing, and Task 2 through 5, which is reading. You can see that written in blue. Okay, and on the right hand side you have Unit 4, okay, and that's Task 1, which is writing, and Tasks 2 through 4, which are reading. Now guys, the purpose of this document for me is to help you understand that for Unit 4, you've already done a lot of the preparation. Okay, so if we compare the 2 writing tasks, okay, Task 1 writing on the left and Task 1 writing on the right. Okay, the overlap or transfer, I'm now reading the text in red, okay, which shows how they're connected. These are both writing tasks, and they require you to structure your response, okay, using paragraphs and using connectives. Oh, there should be a closed parenthesis there. Okay, it requires you to vary or change your sentence types, to use effective vocabulary, to use accurate spelling, punctuation, and grammar. All of those things are areas where you will be marked, okay, where you will have the chance to earn marks. So if you're doing those things well, okay, and you've practiced them for Unit 1, Task 1, then if you apply those same skills in Unit 4, Task 1, you'll be well on your way to success. Okay, now the key difference there, though, is you're doing a different type of writing. You'll be doing personal or creative writing. Okay, you'll be given 2 options to do personal writing or creative writing, and you're going to choose one. I will show you some examples of those, okay, so that you have a sense. And actually, in the overview PowerPoint that I just showed you, you have some examples of those tasks. So you should see them this morning, and then I'll show you some more examples with some student sample writing so you can look at what a good response would be, okay? Now, the second part or section of the exam, section B on each exam, involves reading, okay? So for tasks 2 through 5 on the Unit 1, which you've already studied and practiced in class, okay? You're analyzing nonfiction on task 2, extracting information from nonfiction, which is task 3, okay? And if you look over at tasks 3 and 4 on the Unit 4 side, okay, you are analyzing language again, and it's nonfiction text. So it's going to be very, very similar what you do there. You'll be analyzing, as it says in red, writers' use of language, literary and rhetorical techniques, punctuation, and structure, and how they use that to give a particular effect on the reader. Okay, in other words, what impact are they going for? What's their intention? Okay, so that's the type of analysis that you're doing for the last 2 tasks on the Unit 4, as well as for several of the tasks 2 through 4 on Unit 1. Okay, you may need to listen to this a couple times until it gets really clear, but the main takeaway, guys, is that you've already learned many of the skills in Unit 1 that you will need to apply in Unit 4. The tasks are very, very similar. Tasks 3 and 4 on the Unit 4 will be very similar to your tasks and what's expected of you in Unit 1 exam. Okay, so don't stress about that. Now, in Unit 1, you had tasks 4 and 5 related to media texts. Okay, especially task 5 where you're looking at presentational devices, that's quite different, and you will not see anything just like that on the Unit 4 exam. The big difference on the Unit 4 exam in Section B is that you'll be looking at fiction, okay? But you're still going to be analyzing the writer's use of language, literary and rhetorical techniques, punctuation, and structure for effect, okay? You might, in addition, talk about characters, atmosphere or mood, and setting, okay? But that's really the key difference on Section B of both exams, okay? So that's your overview. I hope that helps you to have a big picture, and you can keep coming back to this document to sort of refresh your memory of what you're going to be asked to do so that you don't feel you're going in blind, okay? Now, the next step here, I'm going to go back to your Google Classroom, back to that home learning post, okay? And we're going to look at a different document here, okay? Look at the textbook, the GCSE textbook, where it says personal and creative writing, okay? So now we're talking about Unit 4, Section A, the first section. This is the writing section, and it's personal or creative writing, where you have a choice, okay? Now, what I'm going to tell you, first of all, is that there's lots and lots of overlap between personal and creative writing. And that's why they use the same mark scheme for assessing your response, okay? There are certain key things you need to be able to do, and those are outlined here under the target skills, okay? So let's look at those target skills, okay? Writing clearly, fluently, and imaginatively. Okay, in Unit 1, you've already been focusing on writing clearly and fluently. Okay, here you're just applying more imagination. Okay, now I'm going to be preparing you and focusing you really on the personal writing. Okay, you may choose on the test day, if you're more confident, to do the creative writing. Okay, but my preparation with you for January to really focus our use of time is on personal writing, so that you can feel confident at least choosing that option, okay? If you prefer to go for creative writing, that's your choice as well, okay? And you'd be applying many of the same strategies. Okay, going back to the target skills. Organize ideas and support coherence, okay? You did the same thing. You organize your arguments into paragraphs in Unit 1, okay? And here, as you're doing personal writing, you would need to have a plan and to organize that plan into key ideas and paragraphs, okay? And that is what gives it coherence or helps it stick together. Okay, you'll use an appropriate writing form. Okay, in the personal writing, it would be an essay form. Okay. You'll choose vocabulary that's appropriate to the task to engage reader, just like you have done. Okay, you'll use a range of sentence structures for effect, and you'll use accurate grammar, spelling, and punctuation as you have done before. Okay. So those are some of the keys. We're going to scroll down past your homework here. You did your homework in this document. Now it's really important. Your homework started here. Reading this will give you a very good idea about how to approach the personal writing. So if you haven't done the homework, please make sure you do. Okay, I'm continuing to scroll down here through your work. Okay, you have sample student writing, okay, and some comments that help you understand why that's effective. It's not a student writing, but it's a sample of personal writing. Okay, you've got an activity there prompting you to redraft, but you didn't have to do that for home. Some more strategies for making your writing powerful in personal writing. Okay, balancing action with reaction. In other words, when you tell what happened in your personal story, your personal writing, don't forget to tell what you thought or felt about what happened, okay? So it should be a balance of action, but also how did you or the character, the other people in your personal writing, how did they feel or what did they think, okay? And your activity for homework, which you'll be submitting, that's the one that was from last week due today, okay, is the activity here. You should have written a short passage about a time you felt nervous. Okay, that's what you should upload. Now we're going to move on here and just look at concluding your personal writing. Okay, having a strong conclusion is important. Okay, just as it is important to have a strong introduction. Okay, I'm reading this first passage at the top. Okay, but your conclusion is equally important as it leaves a lasting impression upon your reader. You want to demonstrate your skill in purposefully bringing your piece of writing to a close and should avoid just ending abruptly, as this gives the impression that you simply ran out of time, or even worse, ran out of things to say. Okay, so keep it concise or to the point, okay, and try to make it engaging or interesting. Don't begin with the predictable in conclusion, and don't introduce new ideas. This is a place for drawing things to a close, okay? Practice using the following strategies to help you craft an effective conclusion. Okay, so you have 4 strategies here. Reflect on what happened in this personal writing. Predict, okay, what may happen in the future. Question, posing a question to the reader and prompting them to think about what they've read. And finally, compelling, okay, using those imperatives, the forceful language to prompt your reader to take action based on your story, your piece. And that will really depend on what's your point. Which strategy you choose depends on what you want to accomplish with your piece of writing, okay? And you can look there, and there are 4 different strategies, okay? So I encourage you to come back to these, use it for revision, and you'll know where you want to spend the most time, okay? The last piece here is the cyclical conclusion. In other words, a cycle, finishing where you started, okay? So if you read these 2 passages here, you'll notice that the conclusion comes back to the same idea, the same starting place as the introduction. Okay, and that's a nice way to conclude a piece of personal writing where you feel, the reader feels that there's been some closure. Okay, now at the bottom of the page, that goes on to talk about creative writing. If you feel more comfortable doing creative writing on the exam, okay, you're welcome to focus your attentions there, okay? But we'll not focus there at the minute as a group. Okay, now the last thing I want to do with you today in this recording is just to take a look at the first PDF there, the GCSE Revision Guide, Unit 4, Section B. Okay, now again, what I'm doing here, I just finished talking you through the personal writing, which is the Unit 4, Task 1. And now I'm taking you to the Unit 4, Task 2. The reason I'm focusing on Unit 4, Tasks 1 and 2 with you is because those are the ones that have some key differences from what we've already focused on. So if you're going to be doing revision on Unit 4 over the break, I suggest your revision is focused on Unit 4, Tasks 1 and 2 in the areas I'm pointing you to now, because these are the ones that are quite different. Tasks 3 and 4 on the Unit 4 exam are very, very similar to the types of questions that you've already practiced for Unit 1, okay? So Task 2 is still reading and analyzing what you're reading. But the key difference here is that you'll be given 2 short texts that you need to read and then compare, okay? And when we say compare, we really mean compare and contrast to say what's similar and what's different, okay? And you need to talk about what the writer is trying to do in these pieces. Okay, so let's start at the top there where it says reading literary texts, okay? Being able to analyze is an essential skill at GCSE. You begin to show your ability to analyze when you can identify a writer's intentions, consider how these intentions have been achieved within the text, and explain the effect upon the reader. That's just so important as a guideline, okay? And here it defines writers' intentions even more deeply. They're the effect a writer hopes to achieve, or the impression they want to convey through their use of linguistic, structural, or presentational features. Here we're not looking at presentational features, so you don't need to worry about that. Okay. So this is a sample task, and it says, read the extract below from Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Answer the questions around the text to help you consider how Dickens presents the character of Magwitch. Okay, so remember, these questions are going to be about character, atmosphere or mood, and setting. Okay, all of this you've studied when you studied Of Mice and Men. Okay, you've spent a lot of time, of course, studying literature, so it may just take a little bit of revision to bring this back. Okay, character, mood, setting. Okay, and here the question is character. Okay, you have an example passage and a bit of questioning to guide your analysis. Okay. Below that, there's a very basic student example. And then on the following page, you have a stronger student example, okay? So I want you just to know that those are there, okay? Now they're scaffolding for you, because on the exam, you're going to be just given both texts and a guideline for comparing them, okay? So here they're just walking you through one and walking you through the second example. Okay, so the second task here says, read the extract below, compose a question which could be asked at each highlighted point to encourage a GCSE student to think about it. Okay. Now, when you move down to comparing texts, okay, comparison is a key element of Task 2. You should have a clear approach for dealing with 2 texts. Identify the key terms within the question, which will identify what you should focus on as you read. Consider highlighting or annotating briefly. Okay, so in some way you should be making notes to help guide you as you read each piece. Okay, and also starting to think about similarities and differences even as you're reading. Okay, begin identifying the ideas communicated by each writer, and then think about how these ideas are communicated. You can write about text A and then write about text B, but make sure you identify points of comparison and contrast. Now, it says a typical mistake here is that students analyze text A and then text B, but don't make points of comparison and contrast. A more impressive approach is to make regular comparisons and contrasts between the two texts. Okay, so the Venn diagram that you have here is a really handy way to approach this task. I suggest that everybody plan to make this Venn diagram, okay? And what you have is on the left, in the circle on the left, you have text A, and in that open space on the left, you are right inside the circle, okay, where it's not overlapping with text B, you're writing down what's different about text A that's not in common with text B, okay? And you do the same thing for text B. What's unique to text B, okay? And then in the middle where there's the overlap and it says both, that's where you write what they have in common, okay? So using that tool will really help you plan your ideas, okay? And here you have what to look for when comparing and contrasting, okay? Look for the following. First bullet point, how each writer begins their text. For example, a text might open dramatically or descriptively. A writer might favor dialogue to present a character, okay, as opposed to direct description. Notice how they conclude or end their text. For example, the text might end with a resolved or unresolved conclusion. The ending could be predictable or climactic. What thoughts or feelings does each text induce or create within a reader, and how is that achieved? Okay, what words or phrases leave an impression? What language techniques have been used? Okay, I'm skipping down the bullet points. Okay. What sentence types, sentence lengths, punctuation are used to enhance meaning? Okay, and how does the reader's impression or understanding change as you go on through the story? For example, is it sort of scary at the beginning but gets more comfortable, more understandable toward the end? Okay, that's maybe not the best description. Perhaps it starts off with a peaceful scene and ends up in conflict. Okay, so just notice how do you feel as you're reading. Or maybe it starts off humorous but changes to very sarcastic, okay, in tone. Okay, so those are the key things I wanted you really to have a look at in this document. Okay, and here's an example of the use of that Venn diagram. Okay, that's a really effective example to guide you. Okay, so this is where I'd be focused in my revision over the break. Okay, now here's a test you can do for yourself, and I have answers in a separate document, which I'll show you shortly. Okay, how to prepare for the exam: read a range of text as you read, highlight and annotate. I have given you past papers. Okay, I've posted them in your Google Classroom, so this is what you can do as you're preparing. Okay. Just do these Unit 4, Section B, Task 2, okay? And follow these guidelines as you're preparing. Okay, this includes preparation, this document includes preparation for Task 3 and 4, but I'm not gonna spend time going over that now as it's very, very similar to what we've done for Unit 1, Tasks 2, 3, and 4, okay? Now I'm gonna come out of this document, and the last thing I'll show you that's here is the Unit 4 sample work and keys to success. And in this Unit 4 document, you've got a description of what grade C writing looks like. Okay, this is for the personal and creative writing. Okay, and then grade A. All right, there's a practice question at the bottom of this page, another practice question. You can treat that like a past paper. Okay, and then following that practice question, you get a sample student response. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to read the sample student response and the notations in the margin so that you understand what they're being credited for in their response, okay? It also gives you an idea of length and organization, okay? They will be very helpful for you, okay? So that is a sample of the personal writing, so you really know what the personal writing may look like, okay? And then if you want, as I said, if you want to look at the creative writing, you'll have a choice on exam day for Unit 4. Okay, I'm guiding you really toward the personal writing, okay, but if you want to choose creative writing, there's a sample of creative writing with some analysis here too, okay? And now this last page, keys to success on either personal or creative writing, okay? Take the time to read this, okay? First bullet point, remember that the skills for personal and creative writing are transferable. The best writing results from the following process. Think first, plan, and then write, okay, and then revise. Resist the temptation to start immediately. Take the time to think and plan is essential, and it will help you produce your best work. Okay, make your writing lively and engaging. Let your personality come through in the writing. The last thing anyone wants is to read something dull. You have 55 minutes in which to complete the writing process. There are no prizes for finishing first, so use all of your time wisely. The only reward for finishing early could be a low grade if you do not make the most of the time available. Finally, review your finished work. This is key. Ask yourself these questions at the bottom because this is what you'll be marked on. Have you used paragraphs? Have you used a range of sentence lengths? Did you change or vary the sentence openings? Have you used a varied vocabulary? And have you left out any words, or are there any sentences where the meaning is less than clear? Okay, guys, if you take the time to revise there, you can really punch up the quality of your work at the end. So save yourself 5 minutes at the end for that. All right, those are the key points to remember related to that task 1 on your Unit 4. Okay, that's the one that's quite different from the Unit 1 exam. Okay, there's a checklist for success here. Okay, and then as we move to Part B, the reading literary and nonfiction texts, okay, it gives you some guidelines for what grade C and grade A work includes. Okay, and here you have a practice question, okay, reading literary fiction. Now this is what your task will look like, okay, and again, this is task 2, the reading task that's quite different from Unit 1, okay, where you're comparing and contrasting. Okay, so you can read tasks A and B and then look at the sample student response. Okay, so really important that you read through the sample student response and note where they're getting credit for their work. Okay, that's a good quality response. Okay, there are also samples of student work on the latter nonfiction analysis questions, okay, which are like Unit 1. All right, I know that I've gone on quite a while here and pointed you to a lot of materials, but we're still, I think, well within the range of how much time we would have spent in class today. I wish you all the best. Now, the last thing I'm going to take you to, sorry guys, before we go, is just go back, and at the very top you have December, January revision, past papers, okay, Unit 1 and 4. Okay, I'm going to go there to the past papers, and you have a list of past papers. Okay, it tells you what unit they are. Okay, you have an example of Unit 1 from 2018, one from 2019 in January, and another one from 2019 in June. Okay, and then you have another example of a Unit 1 in the specimen papers document. Okay, in that specimen papers, you also have a Unit 4 example. And at the bottom, there's another Unit 4 example. So you should have plenty of options for papers to use to practice for January, okay? In terms of revision, the best thing you can do is put yourself on a timer and practice writing these out, and then just get some feedback from somebody who can tell you whether your writing is clear, okay? And if they can give you feedback on spelling and punctuation, great. But the main thing is that you've made yourself clear. That's something most people can give you feedback on, okay? If you have questions for me, you're welcome to email me, and I will try to check even during the break. I won't be able to commit to marking and responding to longer pieces, but if you have some key focused questions, I'm happy to try to answer those quickly. All right, I wish you the very best. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and again, keep in touch. Bye.